The stars looked cold and empty from the bridge of the massive alien ship. Fleet Commander Thex stared at the blue planet on his screen. Earth looked so small and helpless. He had been planning this attack for 100 years. The Velkari Empire was strong. They had conquered 17 different worlds. Each planet fell quickly when their ships arrived. Some took a few days. Others took only hours. Earth would be the same, maybe even easier. Thex walked around his command center. The ship was huge. It was called the Dominion's Edge. The ship was bigger than most cities. It had enough weapons to destroy moons. Behind it, 300 more ships waited in the darkness of space. Each ship was ready for war. "Commander," said his assistant, a young Velkari named Zeph, "our scouts have been watching Earth for 100 years. The humans are very simple. They fight with metal swords and wooden ships. Some use basic guns that shoot metal balls." Thex nodded. This made him feel good. "Show me their armies again." The big screen showed videos from Earth. Humans in bright uniforms marched in straight lines. They carried long rifles that took forever to reload. Their cannons were pulled by horses. Their ships were made of wood and moved by wind. "Look at this," Zeph pointed to another video. "This is from their biggest war. They call it World War II. They drop simple bombs from slow planes. Their tanks move like crawling insects. Very basic technology," Thex laughed. "And this was only 80 years ago. They cannot have improved much. We will crush them in minutes." The Velkari had studied every human battle, every weapon, every tactic. The humans seemed to love fighting each other, but they were not very good at it. Their wars were slow and messy. They wasted lives and resources. They had no real strategy. "Sir," another officer called out, "we are receiving the final reports from our spy satellites." More images filled the screen. Human cities with tall buildings. Humans driving metal vehicles on stone roads. Humans flying in metal birds that moved through the sky. It looked more advanced than the old videos, but still very simple. "They have learned to work with metal better," Thex said. "But where are their space weapons? Where are their defense shields? Where are their war fleets?" The spy satellites showed Earth's space around the planet. A few small stations floated there. Some tiny ships moved between Earth and its moon. Everything looked weak and unprotected. "Commander, they have sent some small probes to other planets. Very slow ships that take years to travel short distances. They seem to be just learning about space," Zeph reported. Thex felt even more confident. The Velkari could travel between stars in days. Their weapons could destroy entire fleets. Their shields could stop any attack. These humans were like children playing with toys. On Earth, things looked different. Captain Dongho sat in a room deep under the city of Seoul. The room was filled with screens and computers. He was not wearing a bright uniform. He wore simple dark clothes. Around him, other people worked quietly at their machines. "Sir," said Lieutenant Sujin. She was looking at a screen full of numbers and lines. "The readings are getting stronger. Whatever is coming, it is very big." Dongho nodded. He had been waiting for this day his whole life. His father had waited for it. His grandfather had waited for it too. For many years, humans had known this day would come. "How big?" Dongho asked. Sujin checked her numbers again. "Bigger than anything we have ever seen. The energy readings are off our charts. If this is what we think it is, we are looking at hundreds of ships." Around the world, other people in other hidden rooms were seeing the same numbers. In Moscow, deep under the Kremlin, Colonel Petrov was talking to his generals. In Colorado, under a mountain, General Santos was reviewing battle plans that had been written decades ago. The strange thing was that none of these people seemed scared. They seemed ready, like they had been preparing for this exact moment for a very long time. "Send the signal to all stations," Dongho said calmly. "Code 7, full activation." Sujin typed commands into her computer. Around the world, messages went out to hundreds of hidden places, places that did not appear on any map, places that normal people never saw or knew about. In space, things began to change. Satellites that looked like they were for weather started to turn. Their solar panels folded away. Underneath were different shapes, shapes that looked like weapons. Deep space stations that scientists said were broken began to send out signals. Their radio dishes turned toward the approaching alien fleet. Their computers came alive after years of pretending to be dead. On the moon, inside craters that looked empty, metal doors began to open. Large tubes rose up from underground chambers. The tubes pointed toward space, toward the area where the alien ships were coming from. "All stations report ready," said Communications Officer Hyunwoo. He was young, but his voice was steady. The network is active. Dong-ho looked at a map of Earth on his main screen. Hundreds of green dots appeared all over the planet. Each dot was a weapon system. Each system had been hidden for years, waiting for this moment. The Valkyrie had spent 100 years studying Earth. But they had only looked at the surface. They saw human armies with simple weapons. They saw human cities with basic technology. They saw human space programs that seemed slow and primitive. What they did not see was the shadow world that humans had built underneath. A world of hidden weapons and secret plans. A world that had been preparing for invasion for just as long as the Valkyrie had been planning to invade. "Sir," Soo-jin said, looking at new readings on her screen, "they are sending us a message." The voice that came through the speakers was deep and strange. It spoke in perfect English, which surprised no one in the room. Humans had been listening to Valkyrie communications for decades. "Primitive species of the third planet," the alien voice said. "You will surrender now. Fighting us is useless. You have 1 hour to give up." Dong-ho looked around his command center. Everyone was calm. Everyone knew what to do. This was not their first day of war. This was the day they had been training for their entire lives. "Send a reply," Dong-ho said to Hyunwoo. "What should I tell them, sir?" Dong-ho smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret that his enemy did not. "Tell them we received their message. Tell them we will give them our answer in 6 minutes." Around the world, similar conversations were happening. The alien fleet thought they were talking to a primitive species. Instead, they were talking to a species that had turned their entire planet into a trap. A trap that had been waiting 100 years to be sprung. The countdown began. The Valkyrie fleet appeared at the edge of Earth's solar system like a metal storm. 300 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the same moment. Each ship was massive. Each ship was covered in weapons. The smallest ship was larger than any building on Earth. Fleet Commander Thek stood on his bridge and felt proud. This was the largest invasion force the Valkyrie Empire had ever sent against a single world. It was much larger than needed, but Thex wanted to make sure. He wanted the humans to see their ships and give up immediately. "All ships report ready, Commander," said Zeph. "Energy shields are up. Weapons are charged. The fleet is in attack formation." Thex looked at the formation on his tactical screen. The ships were spread out in a wide pattern. This was perfect for attacking a planet from space. They could hit every major city at the same time. No human army could fight back against attacks from space. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Thex ordered. "Let me speak to their leaders." What Thex did not know was that his communication was not going to human leaders. Not the kind of leaders he expected. The signal was picked up by every military installation on Earth at the same moment. Hidden computers that had been listening to space for decades caught every word. In Seoul, Dong-ho heard the alien voice clearly. The translation was perfect because humans had been studying Valkyrie language for 50 years. Around him, his team worked calmly at their stations. Soo-jin was tracking the alien ships. Hyunwoo was coordinating with other hidden bases around the world. "People of Earth." Thex's voice boomed through speakers in hundreds of secret facilities. "I am Fleet Commander Thex of the Valkyrie Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You will surrender immediately. Any resistance will be crushed. You have 1 hour to comply." In Moscow, Colonel Petrov listened to the same message in his underground bunker. He looked at his staff officers and shook his head. 1 hour? They think we need an hour to surrender. In Colorado, General Santos heard the message in her mountain fortress. She turned to her aide and said, "Alert all stations. Operation Lighthouse is now active. Full authorization granted." In Beijing, Admiral Chen received the message in his secret submarine base under the city. He immediately began entering codes into his command console. Codes that would activate weapon systems around the world. Back in Seoul, Dong-ho was also entering codes. Soo-jin watched her screens as new signals appeared all over the world. Each signal was a weapon system coming online. Each system had been hidden for years, disguised as something harmless. "Sir," she reported, "all primary systems are responding. Lunar installations are powering up. Deep space platforms are activating. Orbital defense networks are coming online." Hyunwoo was coordinating communications with bases they did not even know existed until today. "Commander, I am receiving ready signals from installations in Antarctica under the ocean and in places I cannot even identify. How many weapons do we have?" Enough, Dong Ho said simply. In space, the Velkari fleet was detecting strange energy readings. Zeph looked at his instruments with confusion. Commander, we are picking up power signatures from around the planet, but they do not match anything in our intelligence reports. Thex frowned. What kind of power signatures? High-energy weapon systems, sir. But that is impossible. Our scouts showed no advanced military technology on Earth. More alarms started beeping on the Velkari bridge. The tactical officer called out, Sir, we are detecting multiple targeting lasers. Hundreds of them. They are coming from all over the Earth system. Thex looked at his main screen. Red dots were appearing everywhere. Around Earth, around the moon, in the asteroid belt. Even in the outer solar system where they had entered. Each red dot represented something pointing weapons at his fleet. This cannot be right, Thex said. Check the sensors again. But the sensors were working perfectly. What the Velkari were seeing was Earth's true face, not the primitive world they had studied, but a fortress that had been built over decades. A fortress designed to look harmless until the moment it needed to fight. On Earth, Dong Ho received a message from the International Defense Council. It was a simple message, all stations ready. Awaiting your command. Sujin looked up from her screen. Sir, we have firing solutions on all 300 targets. Accuracy is near perfect. Every alien ship is locked on. How is that possible? Hyunwoo asked. They just arrived. Sujin smiled. We have been tracking them since they entered our solar system. Our deep space sensors have been following their approach for hours. We calculated their arrival point and probable formations based on their previous invasions. This was true. Humans had been studying Velkari tactics for decades. They knew how the aliens liked to attack. They knew what formations they used. They knew where they would position their ships. Everything had been predicted and planned for. Communications from the alien commander. Hyunwoo announced. Thex's voice came through the speakers again, but this time he sounded different, less confident. People of Earth, we are detecting weapons systems around your planet. This was not in our intelligence reports. Explain this immediately. Dong Ho decided to answer personally. He activated his communication system and spoke directly to the alien fleet. Fleet Commander Thex. Dong Ho said calmly. This is Captain Dong Ho of Earth Defense Command. Your intelligence reports were incomplete. There was silence from the alien fleet for several seconds. Then Thex replied, Impossible. We have been studying your world for 100 years. You have primitive technology, basic weapons, no space defenses. You studied the surface, Dong Ho replied. You saw what we wanted you to see. Did you really think a species that could develop space travel would leave itself defenseless? On the Velkari bridge, Zeph was frantically checking his instruments. Commander, the energy readings are increasing. Whatever they have, it is much more powerful than our projections suggested. Thex stared at his tactical display. The red targeting dots were multiplying. More and more weapons were appearing on his screen. Some were on Earth, some were on the moon, some were on asteroids that looked natural but were clearly not. How many weapons do you have? Thex demanded over the communication channel. Enough, Dong Ho replied, using the same word he had said to Hyunwoo. In hidden facilities around the world, final preparations were being made. Weapons that had never been tested in real combat were charging to full power. Targeting computers that had been calculating alien ship movements were finalizing their solutions. The Velkari had given Earth 1 hour to surrender. Earth was going to give them something very different. Earth was going to give them a demonstration of what happened when predators mistook their prey for something weak and helpless. Sujin looked at her captain. Sir, all systems report ready to fire. We are awaiting your command. Dong Ho looked at the countdown timer on his screen. The aliens had given them 1 hour. 6 minutes had passed since their ultimatum. It was time to show the Velkari Empire what Earth had been preparing for all these years. All stations, Dong Ho said into his communication system. This is Sol Command. You are authorized to fire on my mark. Around the world, weapon systems that had been hidden for decades prepared to reveal themselves. The real war was about to begin. The countdown timer in Sol Command showed 6 minutes remaining. Around the world, similar timers were counting down in hundreds of hidden bunkers. Each bunker was connected to weapons that the Velkari had never imagined. Dong Ho watched his main screen carefully. Green dots showed Earth's weapons coming online. Red dots showed the alien ships holding their attack formation. The aliens thought they were safe because they were far from Earth. They did not know that Earth's weapons could reach anywhere in the solar system. "All lunar batteries report ready," Sujin announced. She was tracking dozens of weapon systems that had been built inside moon craters over the past 30 years. Mass drivers are charged and loaded. On the moon, massive electromagnetic launchers pointed toward the alien fleet. These weapons could fire metal slugs at incredible speeds. Each slug weighed as much as a car and moved faster than bullets. The aliens' shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid metal moving at impossible speeds. "Deep space platforms are online," Hyunwoo reported. He was coordinating with weapon stations that floated in the darkness between planets. "Railgun networks are tracking all targets." These platforms had been disguised as space telescopes and research stations for decades. Scientists had visited them regularly, never knowing that underneath the research equipment were weapons capable of destroying battleships. "Sir," Sujin said, looking at new readings, "the aliens are starting to move. Their formation is changing." On the Valkyrie flagship, Fleet Commander Thex was trying to understand what he was seeing. His tactical display showed weapon signatures everywhere, not just around Earth but throughout the entire solar system. "How is this possible?" he asked his tactical officer. "Our intelligence said they barely had space travel." Zeph was running continuous scans. "Commander, some of these weapons platforms are decades old. They have been hiding in plain sight. This research station here," he pointed to a dot on his screen, "has been broadcasting scientific data for 20 years, but underneath it is a military fortress." Thex felt fear for the first time in his military career. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Scatter formation. Do not stay in predictable patterns." But the human weapons were not aimed at where the ships were. They were aimed at where the ships were going to be. Human computers had been calculating alien movement patterns for decades. Every possible evasive maneuver had been predicted and planned for. In Seoul, the countdown showed 4 minutes remaining. "Sir," Sujin reported, "the alien ships are attempting to scatter, but our targeting computers are tracking their movement. All firing solutions remain valid." Dong-ho nodded. This was exactly what the war planners had expected. "Send signal to all stations. Prepare for sequential fire. Pattern 7. Pattern 7 was a firing sequence that had been practiced thousands of times in computer simulations. First, the fastest weapons would fire to force the aliens into specific escape routes. Then slower but more powerful weapons would fire at those escape routes. No matter which way the aliens tried to run, they would run into Earth's weapons. "Quantum torpedo arrays are ready," Hyunwoo announced. These weapons used technology that the aliens had never seen before. They could phase through shields and armor before exploding inside enemy ships. On the alien flagship, more alarms were sounding. "Commander," the weapons officer called out, "we are detecting charging sequences from multiple weapon types. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, and something else we cannot identify." Thex stared at his display. He had conquered 17 worlds with this same fleet formation. It had never failed before. But those worlds had not been ready for him. Earth had been ready for decades. "Open fire on the planet," Thex ordered desperately. "Destroy their weapons before they can fire." The Valkyrie fleet began shooting at Earth with every weapon they had. Massive energy beams crossed the space between the alien ships and Earth. But the beams hit nothing but empty space. All of Earth's weapons were hidden behind shields or inside asteroids or protected by force fields. The countdown in Seoul reached 2 minutes. "Enemy weapons fire detected," Sujin reported calmly. "All defensive systems are holding. No damage to any installation." The aliens had spent 100 years preparing to attack a primitive world. They had not prepared to attack a fortress. Every human weapon was protected. Every human installation could survive direct hits from alien weapons. "Sir," Hyunwoo said, "we are receiving fire authorization from Global Command." Dong-ho looked around his control room. Everyone was ready. Everyone knew what to do. This moment had been planned and practiced for longer than most of them had been alive. "All stations," Dong-ho spoke into his communication system, "you are authorized to fire. Execute Pattern 7. Around the solar system, Earth's hidden weapons began to fire. The first shots came from the moon. Electromagnetic mass drivers launched metal slugs at tremendous speed. The slugs crossed the distance to the alien fleet in seconds. They hit the largest alien ships first, punching through shields like they were made of paper. Fleet Commander Thex watched in horror as his flagship's sister ship exploded. The metal slug had gone completely through the ship from front to back. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire and debris. "Impossible," he whispered. "Our shields can stop any weapon." But the human weapons were not like anything the Velkari had faced before. The metal slugs had no energy signature to deflect. They were just solid matter moving very, very fast. The second wave of weapons fired from Earth's orbital platforms. Railguns that had been disguised as communication satellites sent streams of depleted uranium projectiles toward the alien fleet. These projectiles were smaller than the moon slugs, but there were thousands of them. The alien ships tried to shoot down the incoming projectiles, but there were too many. The projectiles hit like deadly rain, tearing through alien hulls and destroying vital systems. "All ships retreat," Tech screamed over his communication system. "Emergency withdrawal." But it was too late. The third wave was already firing. Quantum torpedoes launched from hidden platforms throughout the solar system. These weapons did not travel through normal space. They phased through dimensions that the aliens did not even know existed. The torpedoes appeared inside alien ships without warning and exploded. Zeph looked at his commander with terror in his eyes. "Sir, we are losing ships faster than I can count. The humans have weapons we have never seen before. How did they develop such technology?" Thex had no answer. His mighty invasion fleet was being destroyed by weapons that should not exist. Ships that had conquered worlds were being torn apart like toys. The countdown in Seoul reached 0. "All weapons firing," Sujin reported. Multiple hits confirmed on all targets. But the war was not lasting 6 minutes. It was ending much faster than that. The Velkari fleet was already broken. Ships were exploding. Ships were retreating. Ships were sending desperate messages for help. Dong-Ho watched the tactical display as red dots representing alien ships began disappearing. Each dot that vanished was an enemy ship destroyed. The invasion that was supposed to conquer Earth was ending before it had really begun. The Velkari had prepared for 100 years to fight primitive humans. Instead, they had found the most dangerous species in the galaxy. The space around Earth had turned into a graveyard. Pieces of alien ships floated everywhere like deadly metal snow. What had been 300 proud warships just minutes ago was now clouds of wreckage spinning slowly in the darkness. In Seoul Command, Sujin watched her tactical display with professional satisfaction. Red dots that had represented enemy ships were disappearing one by one. Each time a dot vanished, it meant another alien vessel had been destroyed completely. Confirming total destruction of Alpha Formation, she reported to Dong-Ho. Beta and Charlie formations are attempting emergency retreat. But there was nowhere to retreat to. Earth's weapons surrounded the aliens in every direction. The humans had spent decades placing weapons throughout the solar system. No matter which way the surviving alien ships tried to run, they ran straight into more human guns. "Pursuit calculations complete," Hyun-woo announced from his communication station. "Deep space platforms have clear shots on all fleeing vessels." On the dying Velkari flagship, Fleet Commander Thex could not believe what he was seeing. Half of his mighty invasion force was already gone. The other half was scattered and running in panic. Ships that had conquered entire worlds were being destroyed by weapons that came from everywhere at once. "Sir," Zeph called out desperately, "we are receiving distress calls from all remaining ships. The Domination's wrath has lost all power. The Starkiller is breaking apart." "The Void Hunter just exploded." Thex stared at his tactical screen in shock. These were his best ships. His most powerful vessels. The Domination's wrath alone had enough firepower to level a continent. Now it was floating dead in space, its hull torn open by human weapons. "How?" Thex whispered. "How did they know exactly where to hit us?" The answer was that humans had been studying Velkari ships for decades. Every piece of wreckage from previous Velkari battles had been analyzed. Every weak point had been identified. Every critical system had been mapped. The humans knew Velkari ships better than the Velkari knew them themselves. A new wave of human weapons began firing. These were different from the first attacks. Plasma lances that drew power from fusion reactors buried deep in Earth's crust sent beams of pure energy across space. Each beam was hot enough to melt through any known material. The plasma lances had been disguised as geothermal energy plants for years. Scientists and engineers had worked there daily, never knowing that underneath their clean energy facility was one of the most powerful weapons ever built. "Sir," Sujin reported, "plasma lance batteries are firing at full power. Multiple direct hits on enemy battle cruisers." On his screen, Dong-Ho watched as alien ships were sliced in half by the energy beams. The beams cut through the ships like lasers through paper. Even the largest alien vessels could not survive direct hits from the plasma lances. The few remaining Velkari ships tried desperately to escape. They pushed their engines to maximum power and attempted to reach the edge of the solar system, where they could jump to faster than light speed, but Earth had prepared for this too. Gravity. Well, generators are activating, Hyunwoo announced. This was humanity's most secret weapon. For 20 years, human scientists had been building machines that could create artificial gravity fields. The machines had been placed throughout the solar system, hidden inside asteroids and disguised as research equipment. Now the gravity well generators came online all at once. Artificial gravity fields appeared around the fleeing Velkari ships. The alien vessels, which were designed to travel in straight lines through empty space, suddenly found themselves caught in gravity wells that pulled them in different directions. What is happening? Thek screamed as his ship was pulled sideways by invisible forces. Our engines are at full power, but we are not moving forward. Zeph frantically checked his instruments. Sir, we are detecting massive gravity distortions all around us. It is like being caught between multiple planets, but there are no planets here. The Velkari ships were being crushed by artificial gravity. Their hulls, which were strong enough to withstand the vacuum of space, began to buckle and crack under the tremendous forces. Ships that had survived the human weapons were now being destroyed by gravity itself. In Seoul, Dong-ho received a direct communication from the alien commander. Thex's voice came through the speakers, but now it sounded broken and desperate. Human commander, Thex said. I am Fleet Commander Thex of the Velkari Empire. I demand to know how you developed such weapons. Our intelligence showed that your species was primitive. You should not have technology like this, Dong-ho decided to answer. He had been waiting his whole life for this conversation. Fleet Commander Thex, Dong-ho replied calmly. Your intelligence was wrong because you only looked at what we wanted you to see. Did you think we would leave our weapons sitting in the open where your spies could find them? There was silence from the alien fleet for several seconds. Then Thex replied, his voice full of confusion and fear. But how did you know we were coming? How did you know to prepare for us specifically? We didn't prepare for you specifically, Dong-ho answered. We prepared for anyone who might threaten Earth. We have been listening to radio signals from space for over a century. We heard your empire's communications decades ago. We learned your language. We studied your tactics. We prepared for the day when someone like you would come. This was the truth that the Velkari had never considered. Humans were not just a primitive species waiting to be conquered. Humans were a species that assumed someone would eventually try to conquer them, and they had spent decades getting ready for that day. Impossible, Thex whispered. No species prepares for threats that have not yet appeared. Humans do, Dong-ho replied. We always assume someone is coming to hurt us, so we prepare for everyone who might come. Your empire was not the first to send signals we could intercept. You will not be the last. On the Velkari bridge, alarms were sounding constantly. The ship's hull was cracking under the artificial gravity. Life support systems were failing. The mighty flagship of the Velkari invasion fleet was dying. Sir, Zeph reported with terror in his voice. All remaining ships are reporting critical damage. The gravity fields are tearing us apart. We cannot escape. Thex looked around his bridge. His officers were at their stations, but there was nothing they could do. Every system was failing. Every weapon was destroyed. The greatest invasion force in Velkari history had been defeated in less time than it took to eat a meal. Send a message to the Velkari High Council, Thex ordered weakly. Tell them that Earth is not what we thought. Tell them that the humans are far more dangerous than we ever imagined. Tell them to never come here again. The message was sent just before the flagship's communication system failed completely. It would be the last message the Velkari Empire ever received from their invasion fleet. In Seoul Command, Sujin looked up from her displays. Sir, all enemy contacts have been eliminated. The entire alien fleet has been destroyed. The war was over. It had lasted exactly 6 minutes and 12 seconds. The silence in Seoul Command was strange after all the noise of battle. For 6 minutes, alarms had been ringing and weapons had been firing. Now everything was quiet. The war was over. Dong-ho stood at his command station and looked at the main display screen. Where 300 red dots had shown alien ships just minutes ago, there was nothing. Empty space, floating debris. The most powerful invasion fleet in Velkari history had been completely destroyed. Final casualty report, he said to Sujin. Sujin checked her screens carefully. She looked at reports from every human installation around the world and throughout the solar system. After several minutes, she looked up with a surprised expression. Sir, human casualties are 0. Not a single person was injured anywhere. All weapon systems fired from protected positions. All personnel remained in hardened bunkers during the engagement. Dongho nodded slowly. This had been the plan all along. Earth's weapons were designed to fight without risking human lives. Every gun, every missile, every secret weapon could be operated by remote control from safe underground locations. And the aliens? He asked. Complete destruction of their invasion force, Sujin replied. However, our sensors are detecting several hundred small contacts fleeing the battle area. These appear to be escape pods and small craft. Hyunwoo looked up from his communication station. Sir, we are intercepting emergency transmissions from the surviving aliens. They are calling for rescue and sending messages back to their homeworlds. Dongho thought about this for a moment. Earth's weapons could easily destroy the escape pods. The fleeing aliens would never make it home. But that was not what Earth wanted. Let them go, Dongho decided. Do not fire on the escape pods. Let them return to their empire. Sir? Sujin looked confused. Why let them escape? They could bring back a larger force. Dongho smiled. It was the same cold smile he had shown when the aliens first made contact. Because we want them to go home. We want them to tell their leaders what happened here. We want every hostile species in the galaxy to know what Earth is really like. This was the true purpose of Earth's defense plan, not just to win battles but to make sure those battles never had to be fought again. By letting some aliens survive and escape, Earth was sending a message to the entire galaxy. Around the world, other commanders were making the same decision. In Moscow, Colonel Petrov ordered his forces not to pursue the fleeing aliens. In Colorado, General Santos instructed her deep space platforms to let the escape pods pass safely. In Beijing, Admiral Chen allowed alien survivors to leave Chinese space without interference. The message was clear. Earth could have killed everyone, but chose not to. This made Earth seem even more dangerous than if they had destroyed every single alien. 3 weeks later, the first reports began reaching other alien civilizations. Survivors from the Velkari invasion fleet told stories that seemed impossible. They described a primitive world that had somehow destroyed 300 advanced warships in 6 minutes. The humans were ready for us. One survivor reported to Velkari High Command. They had weapons everywhere. Hidden weapons, secret weapons, weapons we had never seen before. Another survivor added, they knew our language. They knew our tactics. They knew exactly where we would position our ships. It was like they had been studying us for decades. The Velkari High Council listened to these reports with growing fear. This was supposed to have been an easy conquest. Earth was supposed to be a primitive world with simple weapons. Instead, it had become the greatest military disaster in Velkari history. Within months, the story spread throughout the galaxy. Other alien civilizations heard about the human victory. The details grew more frightening with each telling. Some stories said Earth had 1,000 hidden weapons. Others said 10,000. Some stories claimed that humans could destroy entire fleets from the other side of the galaxy. None of these stories were exactly true, but they served Earth's purpose perfectly. Fear spread faster than facts. Soon, every aggressive alien species had heard about what happened to the Velkari invasion fleet. In Seoul, Dongho received regular reports about how the galaxy was reacting to Earth's victory. 6 months after the battle, he sat in his command center reading the latest intelligence. Sir, Sujin reported, the Velkari Empire has officially classified Earth as an interdicted world. Their military has issued orders that no Velkari ship should approach our solar system under any circumstances. What about other species? Dongho asked. Hyunwoo looked up from his communication station. We are intercepting similar messages from the Zarthan Collective, the Rigel Federation, and the Outer Rim Alliance. Earth has been marked as extremely dangerous by every major military power in this region of the galaxy. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had hoped for. Instead of fighting invasion after invasion, they had fought one battle so devastating that no one else wanted to try. But the most important result was what happened on Earth itself. For the first time in human history, the planet was truly united. The secret defense network that had destroyed the alien fleet required cooperation between every nation on Earth. Old enemies had worked together. Ancient rivalries had been set aside. The threat from space had made humans realize they were all part of the same species. "Sir," Sujin said, looking at new reports on her screen, "I am receiving messages from our deep space monitoring stations. It appears that several alien civilizations are now trying to contact us peacefully. They want to establish trade relationships and diplomatic contact." Dong-ho was not surprised. This always happened after a military victory. Species that had been planning to invade suddenly wanted to be friends instead. "What should we tell them?" Hyunwoo asked. "Tell them we are open to peaceful contact," Dong-ho replied, "but also make sure they understand our defensive capabilities. Let them know that Earth is protected and will remain protected." The truth was that Earth's victory had been possible because of something the aliens never understood. Humans were paranoid. They assumed the worst. They prepared for threats that might never come. Other species planned for the enemies they knew about. Humans planned for the enemies they had not met yet. This paranoia had saved Earth. The same drive that made humans build walls around their cities and locks on their doors had made them build weapons throughout their solar system. Other species saw this as wasteful and fearful. Humans saw it as necessary and smart. Years passed. Earth continued to monitor space and improve its defenses. The hidden weapons became more powerful. The secret installations became larger. New technologies were developed and deployed throughout the solar system, but no one came to test Earth's defenses again. The story of the 6-minute war had spread too far and grown too frightening. Earth had become known throughout the galaxy as the Death World, the world where predators learned they were actually prey. Dong-ho eventually retired from Seoul Command, but the systems he had helped build continued operating. Sujin became a commander herself, training new generations of defenders. Hyunwoo went on to develop even more advanced communication networks for Earth's growing interstellar presence. The galaxy had learned an important lesson about humans. They looked peaceful on the surface, but underneath, they were the most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. They prepared for wars that might never happen. They built weapons for enemies they had never met. They turned their entire world into a fortress and disguised it as a garden. Most importantly, they were very good at waiting for the right moment, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for their enemies to make the mistake of thinking humans were weak. The Velkari Empire had made that mistake. They had lasted 6 minutes.